Hey guys, C with my house bidding you welcome. Just to start off, I apologize if I am quite fidgety in this video. I suffered a back injury at work, and have always found it very hard to sit still. Also struggling from a twisted my knee, and I've been slowly rehabilitating that as well, but that's neither here nor there. I'm here to review a game that I just finished recently. I hope you like the laptop being here with the footage being played. I think it looks pretty nifty. I've always tried to find a way to get gameplay footage into my videos. Let's turn that up. Get gameplay video into my video. But I'm very lazy. I don't like to do a lot of editing. I don't like to drag and drop video footage and stuff. So just have a long play in the background. This is perfect. So for 20 minutes you're gonna see just gameplay showing off of some guy's YouTube channel. This is background gaming long plays. Thank you, brother. Thank you for the footage. God bless you. Now, one thing I want to say about this is this game here, Breath of Fire 4, I wanted to play on the actual PS... I don't have a PS1 per se, but on a PS2. And I could not find my copy. And I was kind of annoyed by it. I didn't know what I did with it. I've had my PS3 copy for my copy of Breath of Fire 3 for a long time. I got this from a market years and years ago for $5, ex-rental. I've had this for over 10 years, and Hey, I just wanted to comment, the copy of Breath of Fire 3 I'm holding up was actually the first game I ever showed in a pickups video on this channel. Kinda crazy, I just totally remembered that it must have been super early on, and yeah, there it is. I definitely owned Breath of Fire 4 once upon a time, but either I sold it or I traded it away, I'm really not sure. So, I saw it was online on Good Old Games for $14.95. It looked pretty good, but I also thought I could just emulate this, eh? And that's what I ended up doing. I did end up also save scumming a little bit, especially towards the end. Some of that last dungeon is really tough. The big the Faolu Empire, their main castle, that's really tough. And the final boss fight, it's not super tough, but I did restart from the beginning a couple times just to kind of learn the patterns and not have to... I was gonna die anyway, I just let myself die in the game and then reloaded my save, which started at the beginning of the fight, so I didn't have to go through all the dialogue and stuff again. But, Breath of Fire 4, it is a RPG, a Japanese role-playing game developed by Capcom for the PlayStation 1, originally released in 1999, 1 or 2 years after Breath of Fire 3. And I had played Breath of Fire 3 on the PSP. I never finished it. I got very far in. I got up to the point where you become older and you compete in the tournament. So whatever part that is where I got to. I'm fairly sure I got about 15 to 20 hours in before stopping. Because I thought I was at the end of the game, I was not, and I thought at the time, I've just got so many other games I want to sit down and play, and I just put off playing that one and never got back around to it. Now I'm very different. I'm very selective with what I sit down and play. If I dedicate myself to an RPG, I make sure there's nothing else I want to play at all for the next month. And that's about how long it took me to get through this game. I'd play it some weeks I'd play it not at all, except on the weekend. Other times I'd play an hour here, an hour there. But I was slowly getting through all of it. To be quite honest, I felt like the beginning of the game, especially So we'll start with the plot. I won't go super deep into spoilers, just for anyone who hasn't played it. I know this is like a 25, 26-year-old game, but there's a lot of people that haven't played things and want to experience them for themselves, and they watch a review just to see if it's something they're interested in. So I'll do the plot up to a certain point. You play as both Ryu and Faolu. Faolu is the first emperor of the Faolu Empire, which is a western continent, and Ryu is someone who was born on the eastern continent. Faolu was a immortal, a dragon. He did not die per se, but he went into a long slumber while the two continents were warring with each other. They never ended up either side winning. They just called a ceasefire and agreed that they would not encroach upon each other's territory in any way that could be considered an advancement of one party or another into the other's land. And they lived that way for a very long time, until 1 year ago when Elena, who was I believe, either the princess or the queen of the Eastern Empire. I don't know if they ever, like, every town has names and stuff, but I don't know if the Eastern continent is given a name. The Western one is called the Faolu Empire. She journeys into the Faolu Empire in order to visit veterans of the war, do like peacekeeping, like peace corps acts, I guess you would call it. And she ends up going missing, and her sister Nina and Elena's, I believe it's her fiance, Cray. He's the king of these like beast creatures. They end up going to look for her in a sand flyer. They're going to journey across the continents to get to the other side. You have to cross an ocean as well. But their sand flyer ends up crashing, and in a large crater while they're looking for parts, they get attacked by a dragon. That's why they crash. And they end up finding Ryu, who appears before them stark naked and... yeah, just stark naked. And he has just been born. He is one half of an eternal dragon, and the other half is Faolu. And Faolu gets born into another area. He gets born into the place where he died and was buried, because remember, he was the first emperor of the Faolu Empire, and he went into a long sleep, ended up being summoned back by the Faolu Empire, who wished to use his power to resume the war and finally win it. So that's kind of the basic story. You switch between either character, Ryu and Faolu. It's very linear for the first, I'd say, half of the game before it really opens up. You're kind of... it's not open-ended at all in that way. In fact, you might even see it on here. You don't actually go around freely on the map. It's a bit like, what is it, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest? Where you only, like, go between areas by, like, you only have set patterns that you can go to on the map. You can't walk around it freely. There are question marks that pop up as you walk around the map, but I've often skipped these because I find they just take you to a wide open area where there's only like items and stuff, and usually you're getting an item that isn't really worth stopping to grab. It's just kind of halting your progress. But as you go through the game, it's a standard kind of JRPG fare. You do a lot of battles, you level up, you grind, you battle monsters, you buy equipment in towns, you level up your characters who, as they level up, gain new abilities. Some people gain physical abilities, some people gain spells. See here, right now this person has 4 characters. There's 6 characters in total, plus Faolu, who you play as. The 6 characters are Ryu, Nina, Cray, Urshin, Skias, I think that's how you pronounce his name, or Sion. It's like a big dog guy. And the final character is named... I should know her name. I used her pretty much exclusively after I got her. I keep thinking Uhara, but that's definitely not her name. She's like the daughter of the enemy general, and she joins your party under the guise of bringing you back to the general in the Empire. It is believed that if Ryu and Foul Lu reunite, that they will join back together and the dominant person will kind of gain the power of both and gain all of the power of all of the dragons and be able to kind of choose the destiny of the fate of the entire world. So Foul Lu is always on the run from the Empire. All of his missions are based around that. It actually is very interesting. He's the strongest character you play as in the game by far, and in his beginning of the game, you're battling enemies that, once you play as Ryu, become like endgame enemies, which I thought was like a really cool detail. And these like big Tyrannosaurus Rex characters and these giant ogres who you were one-shotting as Foul Lu, now you're struggling to beat with a party of 6. And I thought that was a really interesting tidbit. I'm gonna look up the name of this character. Breath of Fire 4. It's been a couple weeks since I finished it. I put this video off a bit, so these characters are not fully fresh in my mind. Ursula, that was it, and Skias or Sias. It says Sias is a mercenary who only thinks about money, but I don't believe that to be true. He doesn't seem to think about anything at all. There is a scene where you get captured and you're awaiting trial for Cray, and he joins your party as just like a watchdog pretty much, and he has to keep an eye on you, but he doesn't have enough kind of brain capacity to stop you from doing anything, only following you and like doing what you tell him to do, and that's how he joins your party. He just becomes like a loyal servant, like pet. The characters are all very cool. I really like them. They're very personable. Urshin is like so charming. Urshin is a enchanted suit of armor. So the Foul Lu Empire has a giant cannon, and they have to sacrifice people into the cannon in order to fire it at the enemy. But it doesn't blow up the enemy. It creates a cursed world around them. Like, it's called a hex. And people cannot enter the hex because it's full of monsters and demons and stuff. So to go inside, you have to don this like battle armor, and one of these battle armors gets possessed by the summoned soul of another deity. And what was her name? She is also a very good character. She is very into herself. Yeah, Deus, who is another kind of immortal, but she is trapped into this suit of armor and cannot leave. And all the characters are very charming. It's got that kind of old school JRPG vibe where even though the situation around them, like everything I've been talking about, like genocide, war, Peace Corps, a giant cannon you have to sacrifice a human soul into in order to curse a town, like these are all very dark and crazy things and sound horrible, but all of the characters in the game are like very charming, very upbeat, very kind of positive about every situation they're put in. And that's something I really like about classic JRPGs. There's this lack of cynicism, there's this giant optimism always. So that's what I'll say about the story and characters. The gameplay is very good. The combat is kind of what you would expect. You can attack most enemies just to beat them, but there's a lot of enemies, especially later in the game, that you have to use magic spells on, and each character has their own magic spells. Ryu has the ability to transform into various dragons, which you find across the world map. Many are optional, and you should be careful. I'll tell you right now without spoiling it, whatever you do, if you find a giant crystal which gives you a dragon ability, whether you think you have that ability or not, do not give that crystal away. There is a scene in the game, I will spoil this because I don't want it to happen to others. You can lose one of them. And if you don't collect all of the dragons and have use of all of them, then the most powerful dragon will not be in your control. You can still transform into him, but you can not use his abilities. He will just use the same attack over and over because he's gone berserk because you haven't mastered the others. Now, that leads me into combos. Combos in the game is the best way to play, especially late game. You're going to have to be doing this to defeat the late game enemies, otherwise they're going to thrash you, especially the bosses. These enemies are very tough in the late game, and each character has their own kind of magic spells. Urshan has a mixture of everything, but low MP. Some characters have very high MP, others have very low. Some are good healers, some are... I think... Ursula had a lot of fire magic. Cray had a lot of ground magic, rock magic. And Nina, because she has like angel wings, she has a lot of air magic, wind magic, that kind of thing. You guys know it. It's in other RPGs as well. But you can use these attacks in succession, and if you get the right combos going, like if you use a fire spell followed by a high-powered wind spell, you can do a Giga Flare, and that does extra damage to enemies. And you'll hit them like 3 times instead of 2, and it'll do extra damage, that kind of deal. And the strongest attacks in the game are ones that you will use the strongest dragon with the other combos with, and you can make these incredibly powerful combos which will wipe out most enemies pretty quickly. In fact, the final boss, I'll admit, it's kind of a joke if you figure out how to use these magics, and it's all online. The combos are all online. My best combo, I believe, was 24, but you can get way better than that. Like, I think the biggest limit to your combos is that the enemies you fight are just going to die before you manage to hit them enough times in a single combo, especially with your magic ones. So that's the combat. You also have all of these various masters around the world who you can find. I did not find all of them. You don't need to finish the game, but it is an extra added layer, which is like a really appreciated one if you want to dig deep into it, because your various masters will give you various abilities based upon things you've done in the game. Like, one guy wants you to engage in 200 battles and he'll teach you a new technique. One guy wants you to run away from a certain number of battles, and then he will teach you a stealing technique which you can use to like steal high value items from some of the enemies. One person will teach you like just all these different abilities that you can learn. They're really useful to learn as well. It didn't feel like any ability you learned from these masters were totally useless, even if some of them only had a few applicable uses. Anything else about the combat? Oh yeah, I found myself doing quite a bit of grinding to try and get the best items in the game. I believe I was at about maybe just under 30 hours when I was about halfway through the final dungeon, and I was really struggling, so I went and grinded a whole lot, and the final area in the game ended up taking me about an extra 5 hours to get through because I was just grinding, going back to the save point, building up my money to go out and buy more high quality armor and weapons and stuff. If you have like the steal and pilfer abilities, it does make it a bit easier, but I didn't try that stuff out until I'd finished the game, and then I went back in. Thankfully, this is a game that lets you reload your last save just before the final boss, which is very much appreciated, so that you can go back into the world and try and complete the missions you hadn't before. You can also level up your dragon abilities by doing mini games. There are various mini games. They kind of stop existing a little over 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through the game. I will say the last quarter of the game is very story focused. It does feel like for the first quarter of the game is very story heavy. The last quarter is very story heavy. And then there's 2 quarters in the middle where you are just doing what seem to be endless MacGuffin hunts that just get you the tiniest bit closer to your goal. If I had to describe it, it's kind of like one of those old anime where all of the episodes had to have something going on, but not every single episode had to move the plot forward a whole heap. It might be like you'll have an episode where you face a tough enemy, and the next 3 episodes is like you traveling to the next area or something. And something will happen in those episodes, but they don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, you spend, I'd say, half of the game just trying to get from one continent to the other, and going over like sand dunes. You get a sand flyer, you get a sailing ship, like one that goes on the ocean, just like a ship, a boat, and you end up going over the ocean, over beaches and stuff. You get stuck there and have to do fishing. There's a fishing mini game, which I did not get super deep into. But there's also a lot of mini games that allow you to rack up a score. And I didn't realize what the score was for, but it's actually to level up your dragon abilities. So I went back, and a lot of these you can only do once because they are story objectives. But there are ones that you can go back and do again and again. The Sandflyer one is like various races you can do, and you can gather a lot of points doing that to level up your dragon abilities pretty well. What else is there to say? It's about 35 hours. I felt like I was going to finish it in under 30, but it did take that last little bit, and I ended up doing almost exactly 34 hours. Final boss is awesome. I won't spoil anything. You do get a choice at the end of what you want to do, and depending on what your choice, it's a very different boss fight at the end, and the music is excellent. The music is absolutely excellent. You've been listening to it here. That overworld theme, I've added it to my phone. It's something I play just while I'm walking, and it makes me think like I'm walking through the world again. And it's just a great game. It's very much worth sitting down and playing. It's very engaging. It's challenging in the right way. It's just engaging enough with its story from like section to section to keep you hooked. It's introducing new characters. It's introducing new abilities and like more things you can do. There's so much to unlock, stuff that I was only just scratching the surface of by the time I got to the end of the game. And I will say, it's worth it to go through and find all of the dragon abilities. Even if it's a little bit of a hassle to try and do it, some stuff is not super well hidden, but if you explore every area in the game, you'll find out more and more. Talk to all the NPCs. Oh, one thing this game did that I did not notice in Breath of Fire 3, but it might have been there. When you're in towns and dungeons and stuff, it's like a top-down perspective like this, and you can turn the camera. And this is super useful because the towns are very tight and you cannot really see where you're going most of the time, so you're going to have to be turning the camera as a necessity. like 90 degrees every time you do it. And this is like, it's pretty clever game design, but it's also a little frustrating. They've hidden a lot of things in the game that can only be seen if you're looking at it from the right angle. When you start playing, you'll know what I'm talking about. And at first, it's a cute game mechanic, and I appreciated it while it was in there. But over time, it did grate on me just a little bit. Never enough to stop me enjoying the game, but sometimes just enough for me to say, like, oh, he's not climbing this rope. Why isn't Ryu climbing this rope? And then I look at it from another angle, I get to another kind of pixel that I can walk to, and then he'll start going up the rope. That kind of thing. But that's just the old archaic game design. I could see what they were going for. I just wish it was a little more... You can only walk a certain number of directions as well. It's not like it's omnidirectional, so maybe they've updated that for the good old games release, but in the version I was playing, it was something of a frustration to do that. But that's just an old RPG thing. It's how it is. There's other mini game stuff too. Like there's fairy towns you can build to get cool items. Like you help these fairies to build up their town, and you give them little jobs and stuff. And I was playing in this mode, and I thought, man, like this isn't very deep. But if it was just fleshed out a little bit more, like this could be another game. Like stuff like that. Like you could tell they put a lot of love into the game, a lot of effort. They really wanted to make it more than just battling and going between areas. They wanted to cram it with as much content as they could, varying content as well. And I really appreciated it. Even if not everything hit perfectly, it was nice just to try something a little different sometimes, and I really liked that. But I can't think of really anything else I want to talk about. That's kind of it. I could go into spoiler territory, but I won't do that. You do meet a lot of dragons. It's an awesome game. It's one I do recommend. I don't think I would put it in the top tier, the upper echelon of RPGs I've played. Oh, the 2D graphics are beautiful. These 2D graphics, I know like old school PS1 graphics have enjoyed a comeback. I still think these 2D graphics are just as beautiful as they've ever been. It's really, really just... When you go from like an NES game to one of these PS1 RPGs, it just blows your mind. Like the graphics are absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful like hand-drawn sprites. Play it on a CRT if you can, or with like the right filters to make it look authentic, because like those scan lines just make everything look nice. The colors pop, everything's good. I would not put this in the upper echelon of RPGs I've played. I don't think it makes the top 10. But maybe the top 20 or 25. I wouldn't put it as high as like a Final Fantasy VII or an Earthbound or a Chrono Trigger. Or even like a Tactics Ogre, which is different, but I'd even say it's maybe a little bit behind Breath of Fire 3, but maybe Breath of Fire 3 was just so much fresher when I played it, and this is more of the same, but expanded in many ways. It's definitely worth playing. Don't pay insane PS1 prices for it. Get it on good old games, or just emulate it, who cares? Yeah, I didn't tell you that, by the way. Alright, see you at my house, bidding you farewell. God bless you all. Peace.